Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, and sometimes it's so powerful that once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Today, we are going to talk about something that many people feel deep down but are afraid to say out loud. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, you may find yourself nodding, maybe even silently agreeing, because you've watched this change happen in real time over the last 30, 40, even 50 years. The world shifted, society reinvented itself, and somewhere along the way, modern women demanded freedom, independence, and control over their lives. They said they no longer needed men, that they could do everything on their own, and that traditional relationships were outdated. But here we are today, and reality has delivered a painful truth. Many modern women discovered that freedom came with responsibility, pressure, and consequences they never expected. And now, many are struggling to handle real life. This isn't about attacking women. It's not about hate, blame, or bitterness. It's about understanding what really happened, why the world is changing so dramatically, and why men are quietly stepping back as they watch chaos unfold. If you're a man watching this, you've probably seen it yourself. Women today say they don't need men until the moment life becomes heavy, and suddenly they look around and wonder where all the good men went. If you're a woman listening, maybe you've felt exhausted trying to balance a life that demands everything and gives very little peace back. The truth isn't gendered, it's human. So let's talk about what really changed. Not too long ago, life was simple. Men and women had different but complementary roles. Men worked hard to provide and protect, and women nurtured home and family. Was it perfect? No, but it was stable, it was clear. And most importantly, people were happier. Families stayed together. Children grew up with both parents. There was community, loyalty, and purpose. But then culture shifted. Books, movies, talk shows, academic theories, they all began encouraging women to reject traditional roles. Writers like Betty Friedan and movements inspired by figures like Gloria Steinem told women that being a wife and mother was not valuable enough. They planted the idea that true happiness only comes from career power, independence, and doing everything on their own. Women cheered. They fought hard for what they believed would be freedom. And they won. For a while it felt exciting. The idea of having it all. Career success, independence, financial power, and personal freedom. But what no one talked about was the other side, the pressure that would soon crush them. Because when you take on the full load of life without partnership, you don't become empowered, you become exhausted. Being independent sounds wonderful until the bills, the stress, the aging process, the loneliness, and the responsibilities pile up, and there's no one to help carry the weight. Today, psychologists and researchers are documenting the consequences. Studies published in major psychological journals show that modern women are experiencing higher rates of anxiety, depression, emotional burnout, and loneliness than any generation of women before them. Even billionaire businesswoman Sheryl Sandberg said that modern women are drowning under pressure trying to have it all. And yet, many are still afraid to admit they're struggling, because society told them admitting struggle means failure. Meanwhile, men are watching, quietly, patiently, without arguing. Men saw the anger, the finger-pointing, the slogans like, "Who needs men?" and "Men are the problem." They saw marriage being replaced with hookup culture. They saw loyalty replaced by options. They saw respect replaced by entitlement. And they realized something powerful: peace is more valuable than conflict. Men didn't walk away because they stopped loving women. They walked away because modern women convinced themselves they didn't need men. And men simply respected their choice. Now listen carefully, because this is where the story gets interesting. For decades, women said that men were privileged, that men had it easier, that men held all the power. But what many modern women didn't realize is that the responsibilities men carried were enormous, and they were invisible. A man's life was often defined by sacrifice, long hours, physical labor, emotional suppression, financial burden, and the quiet promise that he would endure hardship to protect the people he loved. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but men accepted it with pride. However, once men were told they were no longer needed, something shifted inside them. They asked themselves, if men are the villain and women can do it all alone, then why am I breaking my back for people who don't appreciate it? Why fight for someone who doesn't want me? And for the first time in history, men stepped back. And what happened? Something no one expected. Men discovered peace. They discovered that life is quieter and more stable when they remove chaos, drama, disrespect, and unrealistic expectations. They learned to enjoy solitude. They found brotherhood with other men, hobbies they never had time for, financial freedom, personal growth, and emotional clarity. Many found happiness through independence, the same independence women once fought for, and suddenly, the narrative changed. Began asking, where are all the responsible men? The good men? The men who commit and protect? But they never realized those men didn't disappear. They just stopped playing a rigged game. We live in an era where dating feels like a battlefield. Women say they want traditional men while behaving in non-traditional ways. They want a man who pays for everything, protects them, leads them, while at the same time saying they are independent, they don't need help, and they don't want to submit or compromise. You cannot ask for old-fashioned men while rejecting old-fashioned women. You can't demand everything and offer nothing. Dr. Jordan Peterson, one of the world's most well-known psychologists, once explained that true relationships require responsibility, structure, and sacrifice. But modern culture encourages the opposite: self-interest, unlimited options, and no accountability. That's why relationships today collapse at the slightest discomfort. People don't fix problems. They replace partners. This is where the crisis becomes clear. Modern women are overwhelmed because they were sold a dream without being told the price. They were told they could be independent without loneliness. They could chase careers without losing family. They could delay marriage and fertility without consequence. They could have endless options without losing loyalty. They could reject gender roles without losing masculine support. They thought they were gaining power, but what they really lost was balance. And now the consequences are beginning to show. More women than ever report feeling unhappy, stressed, and emotionally empty, even with success. Many say they feel tired of pretending they can handle everything. Some quietly admit they wish they could go back to a simpler life with partnership, but pride, fear, and pressure from society silence them. Meanwhile, men are done pleading. They're tired of fighting for relationships that feel like battles, not teamwork. They're tired of being blamed for problems they didn't create. They're tired of being told they must earn love by proving their worth, while women believe they deserve love automatically. Men are choosing self-respect. They're choosing peace. They're choosing freedom. And here is the most unexpected part. Many men today are genuinely happier alone. Peace is addictive. Freedom is addictive. And once a man experiences a life without constant criticism, emotional chaos, and impossible expectations, he doesn't want to go back. But where does this leave modern women? And is there a path forward that can heal this division? Those answers are more important than ever, because without understanding them, the future of relationships may disappear completely. So now that we've understood how we got here, the cultural shift, the expectations, the pressures, and the emotional consequences, the question becomes, what happens next? Because whether we want to admit it or not, we are facing one of the biggest relationship crises in human history. Marriage rates are collapsing. Birth rates are at record lows. Divorce is more common than long-term commitment, and more men than ever are openly saying they would rather stay single forever than risk entering a relationship where they feel unappreciated, controlled, or constantly judged. They aren't angry, they're tired. And exhaustion eventually leads to withdrawal. Let's talk about why so many modern women are struggling with real life today. It's not because women are weak, far from it. Women are incredibly strong, resilient, and capable. But society sold them a fantasy, and reality is brutal compared to the dream. They were told they could be fully independent and never need a man, but they were never warned that independence means carrying every burden alone. Emotional pressure, financial pressure, social pressure, aging alone, health struggles alone, and fighting life's battles without support. It's easy to say I don't need anyone when you're 22, healthy, energetic, and surrounded by attention. But what about 45? What about 55? What about 60? What about when time humbles every human being? Life eventually reveals the truth. Independence is beautiful, but partnership is powerful. Real independence doesn't mean rejecting help. It means choosing the right help. Real strength isn't pretending you don't need anyone. It's admitting that life is easier when we build together. But modern culture teaches women the opposite. Social media influencers, celebrity lifestyles, and modern feminist messaging constantly push the idea that women should prioritize careers, fun, and self-pleasure over building meaningful relationships. They were told men are obstacles, not partners. They were encouraged to delay marriage, delay children, delay commitment, believing there would always be time later. But time is the one thing no one can reorder. Biology doesn't negotiate, and loneliness doesn't care about career titles. Because when the applause stops, when the followers disappear, when beauty fades, when success becomes routine, when nights get quiet, something painful becomes obvious. Humans were not built to live life alone. This is why we're seeing a wave of regret among women today. Not all women, but many. And it's a conversation happening privately, quietly, behind closed doors. Successful women admitting they are exhausted. Single mothers admitting they wish they had support. Aging women admitting they feel invisible. Women saying, I thought freedom meant happiness, but I feel more alone than ever. And while women are wrestling with emotional weight, men are discovering something they never expected: peace. Peace in being alone. Peace in focusing on themselves. Peace in controlling their time, their thoughts, and their environment. Many men realize that life without constant conflict is healthier than a relationship built on stress. They found emotional stability through work, hobbies, fitness, friendships, and personal purpose, not through relationships filled with tension. The author Warren Farrell, former board member of the National Organization for Women in New York, wrote a groundbreaking book called The Boy Crisis, where he explains that men are not running away from responsibility. They're running away from disrespect. He said something incredibly powerful. Men will walk over hot coals for someone who appreciates them, but they won't step over a puddle for someone who constantly criticizes them. And that is the heart of the issue. Modern relationships are failing because society taught women to demand more and appreciate less. To expect perfection but offer minimal grace. To believe that winning arguments is more important than maintaining peace. Real relationships aren't battles, they are teamwork. They require compromise, respect, loyalty, and a shared vision. But modern culture replaced commitment with convenience. It replaced patience with entitlement. It replaced effort with expectations. It replaced love with competition. And the cost is enormous. So now the world is facing a reality we never expected. Men are choosing silence over arguing. Men are choosing freedom over responsibility without reward. Men are choosing peace over conflict. And most importantly, men are choosing solitude over instability. And here's what many modern women never predicted. Men are not suffering because of it. They're thriving. They're healing. They're growing. They're becoming healthier mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. The stereotype once said that single men are lonely and miserable. But now, many single men report higher life satisfaction than married men, according to multiple psychological studies published in the last decade. That's shocking, isn't it? The world told us that women flourish alone and men fall apart. But the opposite happened. Women gained independence but lost peace. Men lost partnership but gained clarity. So what happens next? How do we fix this? Is it already too late? I don't believe it's too late. But healing requires honesty. Men and women must be willing to let go of the pride and ego that divides them. Women must understand that strength is not destroyed by softness. Softness is what makes strength complete. Appreciation is not submission. It's partnership. Respect is not oppression. It's the foundation of love. And men must understand that avoiding relationships forever is not the answer either. Peace is important, but connection is what gives life meaning. We must return to balance. We must return to teamwork. We must rebuild trust. We must stop fighting each other and start fighting for each other. It requires humility to say, we need each other. The truth is, men and women were never designed to be enemies. We are designed to complement one another. Where men provide strength, women provide emotional depth. Where men offer protection, women offer connection. Where men bring structure, women bring meaning. Together, they form something powerful, something neither can create alone. So here is the challenge for every listener watching. Instead of asking, what am I getting? Ask, what am I giving? Instead of asking, who's at fault? Ask, how can we grow? Instead of demanding perfection, offer patience. Instead of expecting without gratitude, appreciate without conditions. Instead of competition, choose partnership. Because the truth is undeniable. Modern women wanted freedom, and they deserved it. But freedom without responsibility becomes chaos. Independence without balance becomes isolation. Power without humility becomes destruction, and pride without love becomes loneliness. Now more than ever, both men and women need to rethink what happiness really means. Happiness is not found in proving superiority. It is not found in collecting followers or options. It is not found in winning arguments. It is found in peace, respect, and unity. If modern women want strong men back in their lives, they must understand that men follow peace, not conflict. They follow kindness, not control. They follow appreciation, not entitlement. And if modern men want love again, they must be open to healing instead of hiding. It all comes down to one simple truth. Partnership is not about who is above or below. It's about standing side by side. So maybe it's time we stop asking, what happened to men? Or what's wrong with women? And start asking, how do we rebuild what we lost? Because at the end of the day, no one wins the battle of the sexes. We either win together or lose alone. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest freedom modern women could ever experience is the freedom to rest in partnership instead of carrying the world alone. And the greatest peace men could ever find is not in solitude forever, but in building a life with someone who values peace as much as he does.